There are moments when the universe breaks a person clean in half. For Jasmine Harris, that moment came exactly 4 minutes after she'd given birth to triplets. 4 minutes after she'd pushed 3 lives into the world through 20 hours of agony that left her body trembling and her voice raw. 4 minutes after the nurses had placed 3 perfect babies, 2 boys and a girl, onto her chest while she sobbed with exhausted, overwhelming joy. 4 minutes after she looked up at her husband, expecting to see love reflected back at her. Instead, she saw a man checking his phone by the window. "Liam?" Her voice barely worked. Everything hurt. Everything felt surreal and bright and terrifying in the way new motherhood always does. He turned. Those blue eyes she'd once loved held nothing warm. "I can't do this anymore, Jasmine." She didn't understand at first. Thought he meant the chaos, 3 newborns, the sleepless nights ahead, the diapers and bottles and endless responsibility. "We'll figure it out," she whispered. "Together, like we always—" "No." He cut her off with the tone of someone who'd rehearsed this. "I'm leaving you. For Amber." The machines monitoring her vitals started beeping faster. A nurse glanced over, concerned. But Liam kept talking. 14 months, he said. He'd been seeing someone else for 14 months. Through the high-risk pregnancy, through the bed rest that kept Jasmine immobile and terrified, through every ultrasound where they'd watched their babies grow. He'd waited, he explained with clinical detachment, until the triplets were safely delivered before telling her. Didn't want to stress her out during such a delicate time. How considerate. His things were already moved out. He'd packed that morning while she was in labor, screaming his name between contractions. The divorce papers were being prepared. He'd pay child support, whatever the courts required, but he needed a clean start. Then he walked out. Just walked out of the delivery room where his wife lay bleeding and broken, where his 3 children, minutes old, were being weighed and cleaned by nurses who couldn't quite hide their shock. Within 48 hours, Liam and Amber were posting couple photos from the Hamptons. Champagne, sunset, hashtags about new beginnings and choosing happiness. Jasmine went home to an empty house, 3 crying babies, and the crushing realization that she'd been abandoned at her most vulnerable moment by the man who'd promised forever. But here's what Liam didn't know. Here's what Amber, busy curating her influencer aesthetic and planning a wedding that would break the internet, couldn't have anticipated. 4 months after he walked out, a letter arrived from a law firm Jasmine had never heard of. Inside was news that would change everything. News about an inheritance from a great uncle she barely remembered. A quiet, eccentric billionaire who'd watched her as a child and seen something worth remembering. Theodore Hawthorne had left his entire fortune, $1.07 billion, to the exhausted single mother Liam had discarded like yesterday's trash. Overnight, well, after the long probate process, Jasmine Harris became one of the wealthiest Black women in America. And Liam? Liam had just made the most expensive mistake of his life. Because the woman he'd left broken in a delivery room, the woman he'd betrayed while she carried his children, was about to show him exactly what happens when you underestimate someone's strength. This isn't a story about revenge. It's a story about justice served ice cold by a woman who'd been underestimated one too many times. And trust me, you're going to want to see how this plays out. If you love stories about karma finding exactly the right people, about strength rising from betrayal and power being used for perfect justice, please hit that subscribe button. These deep dive stories take days to research and craft. Your support keeps them coming. Before Liam destroyed everything, Jasmine Harris had been a woman who made miracles look easy. Born and raised in Atlanta by a single mother who worked 2 jobs to keep them fed, Jasmine learned early that nobody was coming to save her. So she saved herself. Full scholarship to Spelman College, marketing degree with honors. First job at a boutique agency where she outworked everyone, staying late to perfect presentations, learning the business from the ground up. By 28, she was a marketing executive at a Fortune 500 tech company, the youngest black woman in leadership, with a corner office and a reputation for campaigns that didn't just sell products, they told stories that made people feel something. She was brilliant, driven, the kind of woman who walked into rooms and made people pay attention without ever raising her voice. That's what caught Liam's eye at a tech conference in Miami 8 years ago. He was 31 then, white and polished, with old East Coast money in his bloodline and ambition burning in his chest. His family's trust fund had dwindled enough that he actually had to work for success, which gave him just enough hunger to be dangerous. He pursued Jasmine relentlessly, showed up at her presentations, sent flowers to her hotel room, made promises about building something extraordinary together, not just a marriage but an empire. She believed him. Their wedding blended her Southern Baptist roots with his country club elegance. Her aunts sang gospel while his prep school friends drank champagne. It should have been a red flag that his family attended out of obligation more than joy, that his mother's smile never quite reached her eyes when she looked at Jasmine. Theodore Hawthorne was an eccentric great-uncle on her mother's side, a distant branch of the family Jasmine had only met a handful of times at reunions when she was a child. Her mother hadn't been close to that side, and Jasmine rarely spoke of him. Liam, with his East Coast old money disdain for anything outside his circle, had never bothered to remember the name when it occasionally came up. But Jasmine was in love, and she was a builder. She'd built herself from nothing, so she could build a marriage too. When Liam announced he was launching a tech startup, some AI-driven analytics platform that would revolutionize marketing, Jasmine didn't hesitate. She scaled back her own career trajectory, the promotions she'd worked years to position herself for, to support his dream. She hosted investors in their home, spending weekends preparing elaborate dinners while Liam pitched his vision. She reviewed his pitch decks late into the night, applying her marketing expertise to make his ideas shine. She believed in him even when venture capitalists passed, even when the prototype failed twice, even when money got tight. Because that's what partnership meant to her. Sacrifice, support, building something together. They tried for children. The first pregnancy ended at 8 weeks, a miscarriage that left Jasmine hollow and questioning what she'd done wrong. The second made it to 12 weeks before her body betrayed her again. Liam held her through those losses, whispered the right words, seemed, for a while, like the man she'd married. The third pregnancy was different. The ultrasound at 7 weeks showed 3 heartbeats, triplets. High risk, the obstetrician warned. Bed rest likely, constant monitoring. Potential complications that made Jasmine's hands shake when she read the medical literature. But she wanted those babies with a fierceness that surprised even her. For 7 months, she carried them, swollen and exhausted and glowing despite the discomfort. Liam was attentive, brought her meals during bed rest, rubbed her feet when the swelling got bad, talked to her belly about the future they'd build as a family of 5. She believed they'd made it through the hard parts, that the struggles had strengthened them. She had no idea that while she was confined to bed carrying his children, he was falling into someone else's. No idea that the late nights he claimed were investor meetings were actually hotel rooms with a woman who looked nothing like his wife. No idea that he was planning his exit even as he helped her practice breathing exercises for labor. The delivery was brutal. 20 hours of contractions that felt like her body was tearing itself apart. But when the final push brought that third baby into the world, when all 3 of them were crying and alive and perfect, Jasmine felt like she'd accomplished something transcendent. She'd created life. 3 lives, despite everything. That joy lasted exactly 4 minutes. Then Liam opened his mouth and destroyed her world. Liam Carter had always been good at 2 things, charming people and calculating odds. The charm came from his upbringing, prep schools where every interaction was a performance, country clubs where networking started at age 12, a family that valued appearance over authenticity. He learned early how to smile at the right moments, say the right things, make people believe he genuinely cared. The calculation came from necessity. His family's money was fading, not gone, but diminished enough that he couldn't coast on the trust fund alone. He needed to build something, needed a win that would restore the Carter name to its former glory. Marrying Jasmine had been strategic, though he'd never have admitted it aloud. She was brilliant, connected, rising fast in an industry he wanted to dominate. Her network became his network. Her insights shaped his business plans. Her reputation gave him credibility in rooms where old money alone wasn't enough anymore. But strategy has a limit. He'd never expected marriage to be so much work. Jasmine's expectations, partnership, communication, actual emotional intimacy exhausted him. He wanted a wife who looked good at events and didn't ask too many questions about where he was or who he was with. Jasmine asked questions. Worse, she expected answers. The miscarriages had been inconvenient. He'd played the supportive husband role because that's what was expected. But privately, he'd been relieved. Children meant responsibility. Children meant his life would revolve around someone other than himself. When the third pregnancy revealed triplets, something in him broke. 3 babies, 3 college funds, 3 lives that would need him present and involved for 18 years minimum. He started seeing Amber 4 months into Jasmine's pregnancy. Amber Chen was everything Jasmine wasn't. Uncomplicated, adoring, satisfied with surface-level connection. She was 28, a lifestyle influencer with 400,000 followers who documented her perfectly curated life for strangers. She wanted attention, luxury, and a man who could provide both. Liam could provide both. Their affair was easy. Hotel rooms instead of emotional conversations. Weekend getaways instead of hospital appointments. She never asked him about his fears or pushed him to be vulnerable. She just looked at him like he was everything. By month 6 of Jasmine's pregnancy, when bed rest confined his wife to their home and the baby's arrival loomed closer, Liam made his decision. He'd wait until the children were born. He wasn't a monster after all. Jasmine needed to focus on keeping the pregnancy healthy. But the moment those babies were delivered safely, he'd end it. Clean break, new start. The life he actually wanted instead of the one he'd committed to in a moment of strategic thinking. He hired a lawyer quietly, had divorce papers drafted, moved his essential belongings to a storage unit, planned his exit with the same attention to detail he'd once applied to business deals. The day Jasmine went into labor, he helped her into the car, drove her to the hospital, and held her hand through the first few hours of contractions. Then, while she was in the delivery room pushing their children into the world, he loaded the last of his things from their house. He returned to the hospital in time for the births, watched the triplets emerge one by one, felt nothing but a vague sense of relief that they were healthy, fewer complications that way. And when Jasmine looked up at him with tears of joy and exhaustion, expecting him to share this transcendent moment, he felt only impatience to be done with this chapter of his life. So he told her, cleanly, efficiently, without room for negotiation. He was leaving, had been planning it for months. Amber was waiting. This was over. Then he walked out, leaving his wife bleeding and broken, leaving his newborn children in the care of nurses who looked at him with barely concealed disgust. Liam felt nothing but relief. He texted Amber from the parking lot, "It's done. I'm free." She sent back a heart emoji and a photo of champagne chilling on ice. Within hours, they were posting their relationship publicly. No more hiding, no more pretending, just the beginning of the life Liam Carter had convinced himself he deserved. Have you ever watched someone make a decision so cruel and short-sighted that you knew karma was coming for them? What happened? What Liam never understood, what he never bothered to learn, was exactly who Jasmine Harris had been before he met her. He'd seen the polished executive, The woman who could command a boardroom and close deals with Fortune 500 clients. He'd benefited from her network, her intelligence, her ability to make his mediocre ideas sound revolutionary. But he'd never looked deeper, never asked about the childhood where Jasmine learned to stretch a dollar until it screamed, never understood what it took for a black girl from Atlanta's West End to earn a full scholarship to Spelman while working 2 jobs. Never appreciated the specific kind of strength required to be the only woman of color in leadership meetings where men twice her age dismissed her ideas until a white colleague repeated them. Jasmine had been forged in fire long before Liam entered her life. She'd learned to survive on her own at 8 years old when her father left and never looked back. Learned to be strong at 12 when her mother got sick and Jasmine had to become the parent. Learned to fight at 16 when guidance counselors told her to be realistic about her college ambitions. Every obstacle had taught her the same lesson. The world won't save you, so save yourself. She'd built her career brick by brick, refusing to let anyone, not the executives who underestimated her, not the investors who talked past her to address male colleagues, not the system designed to keep women like her in supporting roles, define her limits. That strength didn't disappear when she fell in love with Liam. It just went dormant, redirected into building a marriage she believed was worth the sacrifice. But strength that's dormant isn't gone. It's just waiting. The first months after Liam left were survival mode. Jasmine operated on autopilot, feeding 3 newborns every 2 hours, changing endless diapers, crying silently in the shower where the babies couldn't hear her fall apart. Her mother flew in from Atlanta, horrified by what Liam had done. Her best friend from college showed up with groceries and rage, ready to burn Liam's life down. But Jasmine surprised them both. "I don't need revenge," she said quietly, rocking one of the babies at 3 a.m. while her mother heated bottles. "I need to survive this. I need my children to be okay." She filed for child support, got a lawyer who specialized in high net worth divorces, documented everything: Liam's affair, his abandonment, the timeline that proved he'd planned this while she was pregnant with his children. She went back to work 3 months postpartum, negotiating with her company for a remote arrangement that let her rebuild her career while caring for 3 infants. It was brutal, exhausting. Some nights she wasn't sure she'd make it to morning, but she did, every single time. Because Jasmine Harris had never needed anyone to save her. She'd always been her own hero. What she needed, what she'd been unconsciously waiting for her entire life, was the resources to match her strength. And 4 months after Liam walked out, a preliminary letter arrived from a law firm she'd never heard of, notifying her that she was the sole beneficiary of Theodore Hawthorne's estate. The lawyers cautioned that full probate and verification could take up to 18 months, but even the knowledge of what was coming gave her something priceless: time, hope, and the space to plan. Theodore Hawthorne was dead, and he'd left everything to the great niece who'd sat with him at family reunions, asking questions about his life while other relatives hovered, waiting for handouts. $1.07 billion. Jasmine read the letter 3 times before it felt real. Then she looked at her sleeping children and smiled for the first time since the delivery room. The universe had just given her the ammunition she needed, and Jasmine had never missed a shot in her life. Liam and Amber's relationship went public with the subtlety of a fireworks display. Within 48 hours of him walking out of the delivery room, their carefully curated photos flooded social media. Amber's Instagram, at @AmberGlowUp, 400K followers and climbing, became a shrine to their authentic love story. Sometimes the universe sends you exactly what you need when you least expect it. She captioned a photo of them on a Hamptons beach, Liam's arm around her waist, both of them glowing with the smug satisfaction of people who believe they've gotten away with something. Grateful for new beginnings and choosing my own happiness. #authentic living. #love wins. #new chapter. The comments section exploded with supportive messages from people who had no idea what new beginning actually meant. Thousands of likes, hundreds of shares. Amber's follower count jumped by 50,000 in a week. Liam's startup suddenly had renewed interest from investors, specifically investors from Amber's network, influencers turned entrepreneurs who liked the optics of backing a young, attractive couple building something together. They were featured in a lifestyle blog. Power couple alert. Tech entrepreneur and lifestyle guru talk love, ambition, and starting fresh. The interview was nauseating. Liam, wearing designer casual wear that cost more than Jasmine's hospital bill, talked about finding authentic partnership and realizing what you truly need in life. Amber, styled to perfection, discussed supporting your partner's dreams and building a life that reflects your values. Neither mentioned Liam's wife, or his 3 newborn children, or the fact that he'd abandoned all of them minutes after birth. The article presented them as inspirational, brave for choosing happiness despite complicated circumstances. 2 weeks after the article, Amber posted engagement photos. Liam had proposed on a yacht, champagne, rose petals, a diamond so massive it could probably be seen from space. The ring alone cost more than 6 months of the child support payments Liam had agreed to, and was already failing to pay consistently. The engagement announcement went viral. 45,000 likes in 6 hours. Major lifestyle blogs picked it up. Entertainment news covered it. Amber's comments sections were full of congratulations. "You deserve this. Beautiful couple. Goals." But a few voices started questioning the timeline. Some of Jasmine's friends, the ones who knew the truth, began commenting with vague references to karma and what goes around. Amber deleted those comments within minutes, blocked the accounts, controlled the narrative with the skill of someone who'd built a career on image management. Still, whispers started circulating. Reddit threads appeared. Did anyone else notice Liam Carter was married until like 3 weeks ago? Twitter users dug up Jasmine's LinkedIn. Marketing executive, 3 children under 6 months old, recent divorce. The math didn't look good. But Liam and Amber stayed silent about specifics, focused on their love story. Let their curated content drown out the questions. They announced wedding plans, 6 months away, destination venue in Italy, exclusive coverage to be sold to a major publication. Amber started a wedding planning series on her Instagram, Journey to Mrs. Carter. Each post was sponsored content, each photo more extravagant than the last. And through it all, Jasmine stayed silent. She didn't respond to the engagement announcement, didn't comment on the Instagram posts, didn't defend herself against the implications that she was the boring, nagging wife Liam had outgrown. Her friends wanted her to fight back. Tell people what he did. Expose him. But Jasmine just smiled, a cold, patient smile that made her mother nervous. Not yet, she said quietly, rocking one of the triplets while scrolling through Amber's feed. Let them have their moment. She had learned that the best strategy wasn't immediate retaliation, it was patience. The longer they documented their extravagance while he claimed poverty in court, the stronger her case became. Because Jasmine understood something Liam and Amber didn't. The higher they built their platform, the further they'd fall when she was ready to pull it down. And she was very, very good at strategy. She'd just been playing the wrong game before, trying to support Liam's dreams instead of building her own empire. But now she had $1.07 billion on the horizon and nothing left to lose. The question wasn't whether she'd respond to their public humiliation, it was when, and how completely she'd destroy them when she did. 15 months after the birth of the triplets, the estate was finally probated and the funds fully accessible. Until then, Jasmine had lived carefully, knowing what was coming but keeping it completely private, even from close friends. The delay had been a gift in disguise. It gave her time to heal, to raise her children, and to watch Liam and Amber build their very public, perfect life higher and higher. So while Liam and Amber posted their Italian villa wedding venue scouting trip, Jasmine was in meetings with the best financial advisors money could buy, setting up trusts for her children, diversifying investments, planning philanthropic initiatives that would create lasting impact, not just tax deductions. She was also collecting evidence. Every missed child support payment, documented. Every social media post showing Liam spending extravagantly while claiming he couldn't afford proper support for his children, screenshotted and archived. Every interview where he talked about new beginnings without mentioning the family he'd abandoned, saved with timestamps. She wasn't just building wealth, she was building a case. But she was also healing. The triplets, Marcus, Miles, and Maya, were nearly 15 months old now, taking their first steps and saying their first words. Their nursery in the new house Jasmine had quietly purchased was filled with light and joy, decorated with care by a mother who'd survived the impossible. Jasmine's body was recovering too. The weight she'd carried, physical and emotional, was slowly releasing. She'd started therapy, working through the trauma of abandonment and betrayal with a Black woman therapist who understood the specific weight of being strong for everyone while falling apart inside. And she'd returned to work, not to her old position, but as a consultant, on her terms, with her schedule, building back her professional identity while raising 3 babies, essentially alone. She was rebuilding, becoming whole again. Then Liam made his first mistake. He filed a motion to reduce his already minimal child support, claiming his startup wasn't profitable yet and he couldn't afford the current payments, despite posting photos from Michelin-starred restaurants and luxury vacations with Amber. His lawyer sent the motion to Jasmine's attorney with a letter suggesting she be reasonable about his temporary financial difficulties. Temporary financial difficulties. While planning a wedding estimated to cost $500,000. Jasmine read the motion sitting in her lawyer's office, triplets in their carrier beside her. Her attorney, Patricia Chen, 60-something, sharp as a knife, with a reputation for destroying entitled exes in court, watched her carefully. "What do you want to do?" Patricia asked. Jasmine was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked up, and her smile was ice. "I want to accept his motion." Patricia's eyebrows rose. "Accept? You want to let him reduce child support?" "I want him to think I'm broken, desperate, that I'll take whatever scraps he throws." Jasmine's voice was steady, clinical. "I want him confident that he's won, that he got away clean. And then? Then I'm going to show him exactly who I am." She pulled out her phone, showed Patricia the letter from Hawthorne, Ellington, and Pierce, the inheritance documentation, the account statements showing $1.07 billion in assets. Patricia's expression slowly transformed from confusion to something like awe. "Oh," she said quietly. "Oh, he has no idea." "No," Jasmine agreed. "He doesn't." They spent the next 2 hours planning, not for a quiet settlement, not for private resolution, for public, complete, devastating exposure. Jasmine would file a counter motion, not just contesting the support reduction, but demanding full financial transparency, depositions, documentation of every dollar Liam spent while claiming poverty. And when the time was right, when all the evidence was laid out in legal documents that couldn't be deleted like Instagram comments, she'd reveal exactly who she'd become. "This is going to get ugly," Patricia warned. "Good," Jasmine said, looking at her sleeping children. "I want it ugly. I want everyone to see what he did, what he's still doing." She paused. "I want him to understand that he didn't leave a broken woman behind. He left a billionaire who's done being underestimated." Patricia smiled, the predatory smile of a lawyer who just been handed the case of her career. "Then let's begin. If you had the resources to completely expose someone who'd wronged you, would you stay quiet and move on? Or would you make sure the world knew the truth?" Where's the line between justice and revenge? 16 months after the triplets were born, the deposition was finally scheduled in downtown Atlanta. Liam showed up in a tailored suit, still confident. His startup had limped along on hype and Amber's connections, and he believed this hearing was just a minor annoyance, a desperate grasp by his ex-wife for more money. He hadn't seen Jasmine since the delivery room. When she walked into the conference room, he barely recognized her. Gone was the exhausted, swollen woman he'd left behind. Jasmine wore a black power suit that probably cost more than his car payment, her hair styled professionally, her bearing radiating the kind of quiet confidence that makes expensive lawyers sit up straighter. She looked powerful. She looked whole. It unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. "Ms. Harris," the court reporter said, "please state your full name for the record." Jasmine Marie Harris. Her voice was steady, clear, no nervousness, no anger, just cold professionalism. Liam's attorney, Bradley Thompson, started with the standard questions: employment status, current income, living expenses, building the picture of a single mother struggling financially, someone who should be grateful for whatever support Liam provided. Jasmine answered each question precisely, offering no more information than required. "And Ms. Harris," Bradley said, flipping through his notes, "you're currently not employed full-time, is that correct?" "That's correct." "So your income is limited?" "My earned income is currently limited, yes." Something about the phrasing made Bradley pause. "Your earned income?" "Yes, income from employment." "Do you have other sources of income?" Patricia Chen, Jasmine's attorney, smiled slightly. "I do," Jasmine said calmly. "What sources?" "Inheritance, investment returns, real estate holdings." The room shifted. Liam sat up straighter, frowning. Bradley glanced at his notes. "The financial disclosure you provided shows minimal assets." That disclosure was filed 8 months ago, before the inheritance was finalized. Jasmine pulled a document from her folder, slid it across the table. "This is the updated disclosure, filed yesterday." Bradley picked it up. His face went pale. "I'm sorry, this can't be right." "It's accurate," Patricia said smoothly. "Verified by 3 independent accounting firms. My client inherited approximately $1.07 billion from her great-uncle, Theodore Hawthorne, 5 months ago." The silence in the room was absolute. Liam stared at Jasmine like she'd grown a second head. "You're lying. Theodore Hawthorne? You barely knew him." "I knew him well enough." Jasmine's voice was ice. He remembered a little girl who sat with him at family reunions and listened to his stories, who treated him like a person, not an ATM. She leaned forward slightly. "He left everything to me. Every asset, every property, every investment. The lawyer spent months verifying it, and now," her smile was cold, "you want to reduce child support because you claim you're struggling financially." Bradley was flipping through the documents, visibly shaken. "Mr. Carter, did you know about this?" "No." Liam's voice was barely above a whisper. She didn't say anything." "Why would I?" Jasmine asked. "You left me bleeding in a delivery room. You've spent months posting luxury vacation photos while complaining you can't afford to properly support your children. Why would I tell you anything?" She stood, gathering her things with the calm efficiency of someone who'd already won. "I'm not here to reduce child support. I'm here to demand you pay what you actually owe. Every missed payment, with interest. And I'm here to make sure the court understands exactly what kind of man you are." She looked at him directly for the first time. "You thought you traded up, Liam. You thought you left behind a struggling single mother for an easier life." Her smile was devastating. "But you didn't leave a victim behind. You left a billionaire. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what you did." She walked out, head high, leaving Liam sitting in stunned silence. The deposition continued for another 3 hours, but Liam barely registered the questions. His mind was spinning, trying to process what had just happened. Jasmine, his exhausted, abandoned ex-wife, was one of the richest women in America, and he just publicly claimed he was too poor to support their children. Once the inheritance was disclosed on the record during the deposition, and Jasmine's attorney attached verified account summaries to public motions, the story caught fire. A lifestyle blogger who had once celebrated Liam and Amber's love story noticed the new filings, connected the dots with their very public social media timeline, and posted a viral thread. Within days, national media picked it up. The first article appeared in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Tech entrepreneur faces child support battle with billionaire ex-wife. Then the national outlets picked it up. Man who left wife after triplet birth now battles for reduced support, while she's worth $1 billion. The ultimate karma, woman abandoned in delivery room embraces billion-dollar fortune. Influencer's fiancé accused of abandoning wife and newborns for fresh start. The story went viral within hours. Reddit threads exploded. Twitter was merciless. TikTok creators made videos dissecting the timeline. Liam leaving the hospital, Amber's engagement photos, the court filings showing him claiming poverty while living lavishly. Someone found the lifestyle blog interview where Liam had talked about authentic partnership without mentioning his 3 newborns. It was shared 40,000 times with comments like, "Authentic trash," and "This is what weaponized positivity looks like." Amber's Instagram, which had been carefully curated perfection, became a war zone. Every photo of their relationship was flooded with comments. Does he pay child support before or after these vacations? How does it feel knowing he left his wife bleeding to be with you? Imagine building your brand on someone else's destroyed family. She tried deleting comments, limiting who could reply. Eventually, she made her account private, but the damage was done. Screenshots of her posts, especially the engagement announcement, circulated with brutal commentary. Her follower count started dropping. 400K became 380K, then 350K. Brands that had sponsored her content quietly distanced themselves. The lifestyle publication that had planned exclusive wedding coverage pulled out, issuing a terse statement about reconsidering partnerships that don't align with our values. But the worst came from Liam's professional network. The investors who'd shown renewed interest after his relationship with Amber went public started backing away. Emails went unanswered, calls weren't returned, meeting requests were politely declined, because nobody wanted to be associated with the man who'd abandoned his wife in a delivery room and then tried to reduce child support while planning a $500,000 wedding. One investor sent a blunt email that leaked online. "Your personal choices reflect judgment we can't trust professionally. We're withdrawing our consideration." Liam's startup, already struggling, started hemorrhaging what little momentum it had. His co-founder, who'd been quietly frustrated with Liam's focus on his relationship over the business, sent a carefully worded resignation letter that was basically a list of grievances dressed in corporate language. Within 2 months, the company was functionally dead. Liam tried to control the narrative, posted a statement on LinkedIn about private family matters and media misrepresentation. It got ratioed, more comments than likes, and every comment was brutal. He tried to reach out to Jasmine directly, calling from different numbers until she blocked them all. Finally, he sent an email through his lawyer, suggesting they resolve this privately like adults. Patricia forwarded it to Jasmine with a single line. "Want me to respond, or should we let him stew?" Jasmine smiled, sitting in her new home office while the triplets napped, and typed back, "Let him stew. He's been making his bed for months. Time to lie in it." But she wasn't done. She instructed Patricia to file for full custody with supervised visitation only, citing abandonment, financial deception, and Liam's clear inability to prioritize his children's welfare. She filed a separate motion demanding forensic accounting of every dollar Liam spent while claiming he couldn't afford child support. And she made one more move that she knew would hurt most. She established the Ryan Marcus Miles Maya Foundation, named after her 3 children, with an initial funding of $100 million. Its mission? Supporting single mothers abandoned by partners, providing legal aid, childcare resources, and financial assistance to women rebuilding their lives. The press release went out the same day Liam's startup officially dissolved. Every article about the foundation mentioned why it existed, mentioned the delivery room abandonment, mentioned Liam by name. His name became synonymous with the worst kind of betrayal. And Jasmine? She became a symbol of resilience, strength, justice, the woman who'd been left for dead and rose like a phoenix made of dollar bills and righteous fury. Liam's world didn't just collapse, it imploded. The child support battle became the least of his problems when Jasmine's forensic accountants uncovered something interesting. Liam had been hiding modest assets, about $200,000 in offshore accounts and shell company holdings that suggested he'd been planning to shield money from any potential divorce settlement. Patricia filed the accounting reports with the court, and suddenly Liam wasn't just a deadbeat dad. He was facing potential fraud charges. His lawyer, Bradley Thompson, withdrew from the case. Conflict of interest, he said vaguely, which everyone understood meant, I don't want to be associated with this disaster. Liam had to hire a cheaper attorney, then an even cheaper one when the second refused to work without payment up front. The wedding to Amber, scheduled for Italy with exclusive coverage and celebrity guests, was quietly canceled. Amber released a statement through a publicist. After careful consideration, I've decided to postpone my engagement to focus on my personal growth and brand realignment. Her brands had already begun pulling sponsorships as the backlash flooded her comments. Staying with Liam would have ended her career. She unfollowed Liam on all social platforms, deleted every photo of them together, started posting healing journey content about recognizing red flags and choosing yourself first. The irony was lost on no one. Liam tried to reach her. She blocked his number. He showed up at her apartment. She had building security remove him. In the span of 3 months, he'd lost his company, his fiancée, his reputation, and potentially his freedom if the fraud investigation went poorly. His parents, who'd always been emotionally distant but financially supportive, released a statement through their family lawyer expressing disappointment in our son's choices and confirming they would not be providing financial assistance during this difficult time. Translation: he was on his own. Liam moved from his luxury apartment to a studio in a less desirable part of the city, sold his car to pay legal fees, started applying for jobs and found that his name was toxic. Every Google search returned articles about the delivery room abandonment. He created new social media profiles under fake names, but someone always figured out who he was and exposed him in the comments. He was unemployable, undateable, a cautionary tale. Meanwhile, Jasmine's foundation launched with massive media coverage. Oprah's network did a feature. Major publications interviewed her about using wealth for justice. She was invited to speak at women's conferences, business schools, philanthropic summits. She became the face of resilience and strategic justice done right. 8 months after the deposition, the court ruled comprehensively in Jasmine's favor. Liam owed $47,000 in back child support with interest. His motion to reduce support was denied. He was ordered to pay an additional $15,000 in legal fees. He was granted only supervised visitation with the triplets, pending completion of parenting classes and therapy. The fraud investigation resulted in a settlement where he paid a $75,000 fine to avoid prosecution. He had no way to pay any of it. His credit was destroyed. His accounts were empty. His parents had cut him off. He filed for bankruptcy. The man who'd walked out of a delivery room confident he was trading up for a better life was now broke, alone, and infamous for all the wrong reasons. And the triplets, Marcus, Miles, and Maya, were being raised by a mother who'd turned her pain into power and her inheritance into impact. They'd grow up knowing their father had abandoned them, but they'd also grow up knowing their mother had built an empire in response. 2 years after the delivery room, Jasmine stood on stage at the National Women's Leadership Summit in New York City. The ballroom held 3,000 people, entrepreneurs, activists, executives, students, women who'd come to hear from leaders who'd transformed adversity into achievement. Jasmine had been invited to give the keynote. She looked different than she had in those first brutal months after the triplets were born. Not just physically, though she'd healed completely, her body strong again, but energetically. She radiated something that photographs couldn't quite capture: power, purpose, peace. When my ex-husband walked out of the delivery room minutes after I gave birth to our triplets, she began, her voice steady and clear, I thought my life was over. The room was silent, listening. I was bleeding, exhausted, holding 3 newborn babies I'd almost died bringing into the world. And the man I'd built my life around looked at me and said he couldn't do this anymore, that he was leaving for someone else. She paused, letting the weight of that moment settle. For the first months, I believed him, believed that I was the broken one, that I wasn't enough, that somehow, despite sacrificing my career and my body for our family, I'd failed. Her eyes scanned the audience. But here's what I learned. People who abandon you don't define your worth. They reveal their own limitations. The applause started quietly, then built. I inherited money, more money than I ever imagined having. But the inheritance didn't heal me. It didn't make me whole. She smiled. What healed me was realizing I'd always been whole. The money just gave me the resources to prove it. She talked about the foundation, about the thousands of single mothers they'd helped in the past year with legal aid, childcare, and financial support, about the systemic changes they were funding, paid parental leave advocacy, affordable childcare initiatives, support networks for abandoned parents. Revenge would have felt good for a moment, she said, but building something that helps people who've been where I was, that feels good forever. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Afterward, women lined up to speak with her, single mothers who'd survived similar betrayals, young professionals who saw her as proof that you could rebuild from devastation, activists who wanted to partner with the foundation. One woman, tears streaming down her face, said, My husband left me 2 weeks after our daughter was born. I've been surviving, but I haven't been living. Your story made me believe I could do more than just survive. Jasmine pulled her into a hug. You can, you will, and when you do, you'll help someone else believe it too. That night, back in her Atlanta penthouse, she fed the triplets their dinner. They were 2 years old now, walking, babbling, full of personality. Marcus was cautious and observant. Miles was fearless and loud. Maya was clever and determined. They'd never remember the delivery room, never remember their father walking away. They'd grow up knowing only that their mother was strong, that she'd built something extraordinary, that when the world tried to break her, she'd refuse to shatter. Jasmine's phone buzzed with a message from Patricia. Liam filed a motion for increased visitation. Want to respond? Jasmine looked at her children, healthy, happy, thriving, and typed back, He can file all he wants. He abandoned them once. He doesn't get to walk back in when it's convenient. Supervised visits only, per the court order. He needs to prove he's changed before I even consider more. She put the phone down and returned to her children. Because that's what you did when you'd been given a second chance at life. You protected what mattered, and you never forgot who you were before the world tried to break you. 3 years after that fateful delivery room, the invitation arrived at Liam's modest 1-bedroom apartment on a Tuesday morning. Cream-colored cardstock, expensive, formal. You are cordially invited to the Ryan Marcus Miles Maya Foundation's 3rd annual gala. It listed Jasmine as the keynote speaker and host. The event was black tie, hosted at the Four Seasons in downtown Atlanta. Tickets started at $5,000. He almost threw it away. Then he noticed the handwritten note attached. Your children will be attending their first public foundation event. Supervised visitation scheduled for 1 hour before the gala, if you choose to attend. J.H. Liam stared at the invitation for a long time. He'd been granted one supervised visit per month with the triplets, 1 hour in a child-friendly facility with a social worker present. The visits were awkward. The children didn't know him, cried when he tried to hold them, reached for the social worker instead of their father. He was a stranger to his own children. The invitation was a test. Jasmine knew he couldn't afford the ticket, knew he'd have to ask for an exception just to see his kids. But it was also an opportunity, the only chance he'd get to see them outside the sterile visitation center. He called Patricia's office, was transferred 3 times, finally reached a paralegal. I received an invitation to see my children before the gala. I'd like to attend. One moment. 5 minutes on hold. Ms. Harris has authorized a supervised visit at 5 p.m. before the event. You'll meet in a private suite. 1 hour. The social worker will be present. And after, can I stay for the gala? Ms. Harris has offered you a complimentary ticket if you'd like to attend. Translation. She wanted him to see what she'd built, wanted him to witness exactly what he'd walked away from. He wore his only remaining suit, not quite shabby, but noticeably cheaper than what he used to own. Arrived at the Four Seasons at 4:45 p.m. The hotel was transformed, elegant, powerful. Photos of women the foundation had helped line the walls. Single mothers who'd rebuilt their lives with support and resources. The private suite held the triplets, 2 nannies, and the social worker. Marcus, Miles, and Maya were nearly 3 years old now, running around, chattering in full sentences, full of personality. They were beautiful, healthy, clearly loved. They looked at Liam with mild curiosity, the way children look at strangers who smile too eagerly. "Say hi to your dad," one nanny encouraged gently. Maya waved politely. Marcus hid behind the nanny's leg. Miles ignored him entirely, focused on the toy truck in his hands. Liam sat on the floor, tried to engage them in play. They were polite but distant. After 30 minutes, they got bored and wanted their nannies. He'd given birth to them. They didn't know him. At 6 p.m., the social worker said gently, "Time's up, Mr. Carter." The triplets were taken back to Jasmine while Liam was escorted to the ballroom. The gala was stunning. 800 guests, celebrities, business leaders, philanthropists. Jasmine stood at the center of it all, in a gold gown, radiant and confident, greeting guests who clearly adored her. She saw Liam across the room, nodded once, acknowledgement, not warmth. Then she turned back to her conversation, and he understood. He was irrelevant now, not her enemy, not her concern. Just a man who'd made a catastrophic mistake and would live with the consequences forever. When she took the stage to speak, the room fell silent. "Almost 3 years ago today, I was abandoned in a delivery room," she began. "Today, I'm standing here because I chose to build instead of break." The applause was thunderous, and Liam sat in the back, watching the life he could have had if he'd been a better man. Here's what Jasmine Harris learned that you should probably know too. People will show you who they are in crisis. Believe them the first time. Liam showed her exactly who he was when he walked out of that delivery room. Someone who valued his comfort over commitment, who saw family as optional when it got difficult, who believed he could trade people like assets. She could have spent years trying to change his mind, convince him to come back, prove she was worth staying for. Instead, she let him go. Let him build his new life with Amber. Let him believe he'd gotten away with it. And then she rebuilt herself into something he could never touch again. The inheritance gave her resources. But resources without character just make you a rich villain. What made Jasmine powerful wasn't the money, it was what she chose to do with it. She didn't just destroy Liam, she helped thousands of women who'd been where she was. Turned her pain into purpose, her abandonment into advocacy. That's the difference between revenge and justice. Revenge feels good for a moment. Justice creates lasting change. 3 years after that delivery room, Jasmine's foundation had helped over 5,000 single mothers rebuild their lives. Her children were thriving. Her career had evolved into something bigger than she'd ever imagined. And Liam? He was a cautionary tale. The man who walked away from a billion-dollar future because he thought he deserved something easier. The universe doesn't always give good people what they deserve right away. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes the karma is so perfect, you almost feel sorry for the person receiving it. Almost. Because Jasmine learned the most important lesson of all. You don't need someone who abandoned you to understand their mistake. You just need to build something so extraordinary that their absence becomes the biggest loss of their life. And every time Liam sees headlines about the foundation, every time someone mentions Jasmine Harris in conversation, every time his children grow up without knowing him, he'll understand exactly what he threw away. If this story hit you the way it hit me, if you believe in karma, strategic justice, and the power of building instead of breaking, smash that subscribe button. Drop a comment telling me about a time the universe served perfect justice to someone who deserved it. And hit the like button if you think Jasmine handled this exactly right. See you in the next story. Until then, remember, sometimes the best revenge is becoming someone they could never deserve in the first place.